Alright, this is ChatUTD. As the title of the video says, it poses the question, for United fans, when do we say enough is enough from these owners with this structure? I was watching the United stand the other day and Mark Goldbridge said, the closest we've ever got to any momentum towards getting the Glazers out was after the Liverpool game was called off, when we protested because of the proposed Super League. And as he said, the Glazers shit themselves. He's got far more contacts in football than I have. And he said it in a very knowing way. He said the Glazers absolutely shit their pants when that happened, when they realised the power that the fans have got. They started to say that they would engage in fans' forums and communicate and things like that, which they'd never done before and they've never done since, because everything went quiet over that summer when they bought a few players. And I've said it before, I think he said something very similar in the video. We had our foot on their neck and we let them go. For me, they've done worse since the failed Super League bid. I think playing with the fans' emotions and letting the fans think that there was a full sale on the cards when there clearly wasn't, no such thing was going on. They clearly had an agreement with Ratcliffe in the background all along, and it was going to, other than someone coming in with a stupid bid for the club, it was always going to be a deal with Ratcliffe. But they let the supporters think that a full sale was on the cards. That's worse for me, because that's regarding our own club. The way they've treated our own club is worse than what they did with the Super League. I completely disagree with the premise of the Super League, but the way they've treated United over the years, the fact we're $1 billion in debt, the fact they never put a penny in, the fact they just seem to feel no responsibility for the club whatsoever, is the fact it's been a racketeering operation dressed up as football ownership. All of that is far worse than them trying to join a Super League. They're American. That's the way they think sport runs. I'm not excusing it, but that was the tipping point for our fans. And we've never picked up that momentum, pretty much anyway. We've never picked it up again since. But let's look at since then. And again, I think we sometimes forget, because it's got so bad, that there's been times in recent years where if you'd have said to a United fan 2 or 3 years ago, United are going to finish 15th, or they're going to potentially this season could finish even lower, we could be in a relegation scrap. First of all, you get laughed out of the place. Secondly, what that fan would say in response is, well, if that happens, there's going to be a royal kick-off. The Glazers will be, they'll be hounded out. But here we are. That isn't the case, is it? And I'm going to just give you a few examples of what I mean. So I remember it very clearly because I just started doing this channel, and I think Steehausen, who I referenced the other day, did a video where he said, in response to a rumour that Jim Ratcliffe was going to take 27%, which is exactly what ended up happening. In response to a rumour like that, he said, there's no chance that will happen because there would be World War III, there would be anarchy. And I remember his words, he said, you watch what happens if you've got the fucking cheek to do that. You watch what happens if you've strung us along this long thinking it's going to be a full takeover and you take 26% from him, you watch what happens. I remember it really clearly. And I remember referencing it when that did happen. And I said, what's happened? In fact, I'll go one further. In the summer of when all the takeover stuff was rumbling on, he said, you wait and see, that's what he said, you wait and see if we start the season and nothing's progressed with this takeover, you wait and see what happens. First game of the season against Wolves, there wasn't a whisper about it at home. Not a whisper. Then it was, you see what happens if there's 26%. Again, nothing's happened, has it? So it's what happens in the moment. We look to the future and say that is going to be an absolute outcry if whatever that thing is, happens. And then you walk down the road a little bit, you get to that point, that very same thing happens, and everyone goes, oh, never mind. Let's predict the next thing we're going to be outraged about. Finishing 8th. You can't be finishing 8th at Man United. Fucking hell, there'll be absolute war on your hands. We finish 8th. Nothing. People celebrating and and wanting Ten Hag to get a new contract because he won the FA Cup against City in a one-off game. Forget everything else, give him a new contract now. But he deserves time under a proper structure. Okay, proper structure, which we're still yet to see. And then, again, imagine about a year or so ago, if someone would have said, United are going to finish 15th. Not only that, Ineos are going to wipe out the fucking workforce. They're going to put season ticket prices up, cheeky bastards. They're going to take away concessions for youngsters. They're going to take away concessions for the over 60s. They're going to chuck people out of their seats that have had them for 40, 50 years because they want to free up those seats so they can charge daft money for day trippers. They're going to cut charitable donations to local foundations. They're going to cut their donation to the local players, ex-players charity, and we're going to finish 15th. If you'd have said all that a year ago, your Stehausens of this world would have said, fucking hell, you watch what's going to happen if that's the case. And here we are, not a dicky bird. By the way, I'm not saying Manchester United are a big club and we're not doing very well and it's not fair. I'm not saying that. No club is entitled to anything. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But let's be clear, this, where we are now, is a direct result of the mistakes made and the incompetence and neglect of the owners of this football club. Without question. As our former manager would say, there's no question about that. That's the reason. Football, it goes in cycles. I've mentioned this before. It's not our turn to be great anymore. But there's not being great and there's finishing 15th. When you were not that long ago mentioning the same breath as Real Madrid and Barcelona as one of the three biggest clubs in the world. We have the fourth biggest income in world football. And bear in mind, one of the teams apparently ahead of us is Man City, and that's lies and that's doctored books. We're probably the third biggest income in world football. And we finished 15th last season. So I'm not a spoiled brat who thinks that my team should win everything because we're the mighty Man United. Far from it. But the reason we are where we are is because of a catalogue of mistakes and neglect from the owners that we've got of this club. And I've just listed things, I've rhymed off loads of different things there. And we've now got two sets of twats that we can target if we need to in terms of Ineos as well. And there is no sound whatsoever coming out about these owners and about doing anything about it. So, what prompted this video is I thought to myself earlier, can you imagine if we get relegated? And I allowed myself to think, fucking hell, there really would be civil war on your hands at Old Trafford. There'd be anarchy. And it's prompted me to do this video because actually there wouldn't. I honestly think we could get relegated and I think Old Trafford would be full. And I think the fans would get behind the lads and they wouldn't be booting off about it. And it's something that seems outlandish, like being relegated. What we're seeing evidence of is, a while ago, finishing 15th would have been outlandish, and it's happened, and no one's that outraged by it. So there's not that much further to go in terms of slipping down before that eventuality comes true. I understand that some people might be watching this and thinking, what are you on about? We're not going to get relegated. That's so dramatic. Don't be stupid. And I completely understand that. But we've thought that won't happen and that won't happen and that won't happen. And it always, up until now, really, in terms of this decline, everything we thought couldn't happen has happened. So one, it could happen. And two, again, what I'm seeing evidence of in this decline is when we seem to reach a new low that we thought we were going to go absolutely spare about, when we projected if it ever happened, we'd go absolutely bonkers. No one goes bonkers. No one does anything. Now, I'll be fully honest with you. I'm going to United on Saturday. I hadn't been for years until last season, out of protest. But my little boy is 10 years old, and despite everything, I'm dead proud of him, despite everything, despite watching the shower of shit every week, despite being disappointed every single time we watch them, his only football experience of watching United has been bad. And despite all that, he loves them. And he asks me to regale him about tales of when I used to go. And we play football on a Saturday in Newton Heath. So it's from where we are, it's about a 35-minute journey. It's about a 50-minute journey back for some reason. And we have to go past that shithole of a stadium, City Stadium, every time. And he's a brilliant conversationalist, my little lad. And he says to me, tell me, Dad, about your favourite time going to Old Trafford. Tell me about when you went with your mate to Villa Park. Tell me about this, tell me about that. And I can talk about it, and it's amazing. But it's bittersweet because he's here and he's smiling, he's obviously imagining it, and I'm thinking, but I want this for you. I want you to experience just some of the highs. I'm not necessarily meaning winning leagues and things like that, but as I was talking about stages the other day, getting into stage 1 would do. And despite all of that, in the modern world where it's very easy for a young person to go, well, I'll go and support Stockport County, or I'll go and support Chelsea or Arsenal or Barcelona. Young kids support random teams these days. They're nothing to do with their family or anything. It's there. And he supports Man United. And he wants to go. I'm not denying him the chance to go, so I'm going to take him. And I want him to experience Old Trafford while it's there. And we're in the Stretford end. So I am going, but I just want to say that I'm not a hypocrite. I wouldn't give the Glazers money if I didn't have any kids, or I didn't have any kids that were, if I had kids and they weren't interested in football, I wouldn't go. But as I said, just in terms of, I suppose, like an atmosphere around the ground, in terms of an atmosphere of anarchy or an atmosphere of unrest, where do we draw the line? When is enough enough? Glazers out.